All right.
Hmm.
So this is how much you respect me, respect what I'm trying to do here. You fucking eating noodles on camera, no less.
Mm.
Like a little thought you are.
Your Patreon this subscribers get to see me eat them.
No. Oh,
We can do
maybe.
ASMR real quick. Real quick.
Didn't come up. All I heard is gawk, 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 gawk.
That's ASMR.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna be slurping the noodles.
Well, I don't want to get my microphone wet. I'm not a true. Hold on.
There it is. Isn't that a sign of how much you're enjoying the noodles? Isn't that polite in Japan or in Asian countries to slurp your noodles? You don't
I
know?
don't know anything.
So what? So you're infatuated with Japanese culture specifically, right? But you don't know anything about it.
I wouldn't say infatuated. I don't want to appear as if I can educate anybody on these things. I just like Japanese music, Japanese stuff, books, authors. You know, the language I think is a beautiful language.
Really beautiful. Would we say beautiful?
I think it's great. It's very vowel heavy.
There's the
Nobunaga. You get that lilt. The very,
I'm saying there's the romance languages, like anything deriving from Latin.
I think lots of languages are beautiful, not just Japanese. I
What do you
think
think of
English,
Portuguese?
I think Portuguese is a beautiful language.
Okay. I don't know. I know next to nothing about Portuguese other than they're terribly racist and started the race. It started the concept of race.
I don't,
Listen,
I don't know. You have to educate me on that.
listen, let's get this on the road because we're already off the tracks and we haven't even started. So
Well, am I balding? Look at that, right?
yeah, yeah. I think it's called there's a term for it when you're always wearing these. I
Near
have
death.
no excuse for that, but all right,
Okay, yeah, yours is balding in the front. Mine's kind of balding in the back.
cool. Sick tie dope.
Yeah. So, what would you like to speak about?
I would
Hausu.
like you to shut up so that I can intro my show. Would that be okay?
Okay.
I know you're used to being the boss. I get it. But could I get started for a second, do you think?
Yes, sir.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to my horror confessional, where every week I will have one guest come on and talk about one classic horror movie that they haven't seen and why. Today, my guest, we have a returning guest, Andrew.
Hilbert.
Yeah, I was going to try to think of a clever middle name for you. Andrew, what's your middle name, Andrew?
Martin.
No, it isn't.
It is.
Wow. Andrew Martin Hilbert. Thanks for coming back on the show, Andrew.
Well, I thank you for having me, Miguel.
This
Miguel Patrick Villa.
no middle name. I don't have a middle name. I'm one of the only like Latinos who doesn't have a middle name, but my dad did not believe in middle names.
Is that true?
We couldn't afford them. That's how poor we were. Listen, so Andrew has been on the show before. He was actually the first guest, and we did Coppola's. Yeah. Do you think
We
you
did
you
Bram.
think you can put the phone down for a second
I had.
on the podcast?
I was changing it to not vibrate.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be on the show. I know you're a really busy man. So yeah, we did Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula, right?
Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we also did Serial Mom
Serial Mom.
last year, and continuing in horny movies that you pick. we're doing Hausu from 77, I believe.
That's what I think it is.
Yeah. So before that, let's get into a little bit about you. What have you been up to since then? I know you published a book that's been surprisingly well reviewed.
So yeah, Ghoulish Books published Excrement Mountain by me. And I think Max and I knew the book would either be loved or hated. It's not the kind of book that you're going to rate a 3 stars. It's kind of the book that you rate a 1 or a 5. And it's because it's a very abrasive book. But I think it's the best thing I ever wrote. Miguel, you read it, whatever. You might disagree. However, it is a book that is very polarizing for few people who have read it, but I've been pretty surprised at how well reviewed the book is, like you just said.
Yeah. So tell us what it's about.
It's about interestingly, House is a funny movie to watch because I imagine that would kind of be the main character's directing style. Director in the movie. They're filming a basically is maybe a porno, and then a pile of shit falls in the middle of Austin. And so they change course. They decide they're going to go up the mountain. They're going to film it documentary style while writing a page of the script every single day and filming some narrative, and as they go up the hill, they go crazier. So yeah, and that's about as best of a synopsis I can give.
Is the pile of shit that falls down into Austin, is that supposed to be a metaphor for anything?
I thought it was funny. I thought it'd be funny to have a pile of shit. And the funny thing is, this was at the kind of the begin when I came up with the idea, kind of the beginning of the pandemic, or first year, maybe beginning of the second year. You and Zach were talking about all the stuff you were doing, and I was just sitting in my underwear, depressed as hell. So I just typed up what I thought was going to be a joke, and it was like, yeah, I'm going to write this. I lied to you guys, said I'm working on this, and I wasn't working on it. I was just writing it down as I was talking in Discord, and then turned it in. It was gonna be. It was extra. It was always. It was. I said always Excrement Mountain, and then I quickly said, but no vowels, because blah blah blah. And then I was like, that sounds pretty good. I can probably get 90 pages out of that.
Okay, and so you turned it into a novella. I read the books. I enjoyed it. I am a fan of one of your earlier books, Death Thing.
Yeah,
and that's my favorite book by you. One of my favorite books I've ever read. And so it's as weird, no, definitely weirder than that, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this book. It was really fucking weird. And knowing you, knowing how infatuated I used that word infatuated, how cum is always on your mind.
I've got cum brain. Yeah,
You got a cum brain.
Wet brain. I've got cum brain.
Yeah. So just like seeing you slipping the slippy cum in there, which is a phrase that I was around for the birth of that phrase.
You were there for the cum shot.
Yeah, I was there for the cum shot. It was interesting. The book was it came out in February of this year.
March,
right around the time of Ghoulish Book Festival, right?
Right. Wait, was it? Yeah, I guess it came out at the end of March. Yeah.
And you had people coming up to you claiming that you were perhaps the next Bukowski, was it?
Nobody came up to me and said shit.
Yes, they did. They said Excrement Mountain. You remind me of, was it Bukowski? Who said?
I don't think. Listen, okay, Bukowski.
Tell me, I asked you a question. Answer. Did they say Bukowski?
I don't know, because they didn't come to me.
All right, I'm gonna have to cut this part.
But no. You tell me. I like to compare to people.
That Myrdian guy or from?
Okay, yeah, he did come to me. He did. He said he liked me.
He said he liked you, and you thought he reminded you of?
I don't know.
Okay, all right, cool.
I'm too humble.
Okay.
I don't take compliments. When people start complimenting, I just stop listening.
I won't compliment.
I'm the most humble man.
You're not going to get any compliments here.
I am the most humble man.
So, in the process of writing Excrement Mountain, did you ever say to yourself, "They're not ready for"?
When I was writing Excrement Mountain, like 99% of it was written between the hours of 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. after I got off work.
Mhm.
And so there's really no time to think about if this was good or not. I just let my little fingers fly. It was, my fingers are just banging on the keyboard. I was finger banging that keyboard. And I would look back, I would read back like the next day and be like, oh, that's pretty good. It's pretty good. Okay, let's keep going. Uh, I had my doubts as to whether anyone would publish it. And I was trying to think of, well, would I self-publish it? I don't know. I probably could, but it was quite an honor to get published by Ghoulish because I love Ghoulish, and then being in that lineup of authors. So, it might be the worst book they published in that lineup, but since it's a Ghoulish book, I still feel like it has some bragging power, some cachet.
It's you're too humble and also you're too self-deprecating. It's a great book. It's a great book. I would recommend it. As long as you don't like, I would recommend it to anybody who has a shit fetish or
If
does
you
have
don't,
a cum
first of
fetish.
all, yeah, if you don't like poop, there's a lot of people who don't like talking about poop. I get it. You're weird, but you don't like talking about poop. You probably won't like this book. Also, you're gonna have to get over some initial abrasiveness. I mean, it's cartoonish, but cartoonish in like a 1940s Warner Brothers type.
So when you mean abrasive, you mean about like stereotypes.
There's some stereotypes.
What are the stereotypes?
Well, basically, uh, this makes sense in the course of the book. It's a character, okay, but the director is Italian, and I modeled him basically off of Super Mario and the guy who's on all the pizza boxes. It makes sense in the context of the book. Initially, though, you're gonna
Eh,
think, and also Portuguese people do not get any leeway from me.
yeah,
I'm Portuguese, and there's someone who's offended by the Portuguese things I said. That I feel completely comfortable making. I'm Portuguese. They're hairy. I'm
F.
hairy. I had a unibrow. My hair doesn't stop once it hits my back of my neck. What is that called? The nape.
Yes.
Once it gets the nape of my neck, it doesn't stop. It goes all the way around to the taint, to my balls, and all the way back up to my beard. That is a Portuguese man.
You are a gorgeous man. You have a gorgeous mustache and a great full beard when you want. Now you don't have it. You shaved it off. Listen, I can spend the rest of the episode talking about your beard. We're not going to do that.
In my
So,
body.
so that's been published. Have you been? I know you had now you have two kids. So have you had a chance? Are you working on anything new now?
Yeah, I am working on something. Working title is The Church of the Egg-Laying Rat. Although the more I write it, the less I'm thinking maybe I won't. Maybe I'll be the title of a chapter or a section of the book rather than the book itself. I do think maybe I have a tendency to turn people off with the titles of my books.
That
Maybe
thing,
Death Thing was like the only good title I had.
Bang Face and the Glory Hole.
Yeah, that's a turn off for most people.
What
Invasion
was
of the Weirdos was a good title.
Invasion of the Weirdos?
I think every other book I have a title that doesn't turn people off.
What was the chapbook that you released?
Well, I had Inner Space.
Inner Space is a great book.
Yeah,
Great title.
but to me, it's also a little boring. That's a boring title. It's a bad title. It's a boring title. Death Thing's a good title. Bang Face the Glory Hole is a good title, but turns people off. Invasion of the Weirdos, I think it's a great title.
Yeah.
Inner Space, not a great title.
Okay.
Extra Mountain, great title. No one can read it.
Because you took out all the vowels on the
Exactly.
yeah.
So I do this to myself, I think.
So, but you're working. So, Church of the Egg-Laying Rat, you're working on
Church of the
it.
Egg-Laying Rat, I'm working on that, and yeah, it's this couple, they stumble upon this huge egg in an abandoned house that they're squatting in, and
Hilarity ensues.
Yeah, hilarity, sadness, tragedy, the real depths. I've plumbed the depths of the human experience.
So, if you don't know by now, Andrew works in the weird genre, right?
Yeah, I would say probably, yeah.
Probably.
I mean, I feel like I have mainstream potential.
Oh, I see literally nothing but potential, Andrew.
Thank you, thank you. Full of potential
All right.
and failure.
So along with the weird subgenre, Andrew also likes weird media,
I do like weird media.
and he's really into Japanese culture, right? Or Japanese pop culture.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I like Japanese music, right? I like the language. I think it's a fascinating language. Um, there's some anime I like. I wouldn't say I'm an anime person or a manga person, but there's some of it I really do like. Not gonna lie. So I say, yeah, I do like the pop culture. In terms of like the culture, like traditional culture, I don't know much about it. I don't know much. I do read some Japanese authors. I guess I get some of the culture from that, but I'm no expert.
Okay, but you just say you consume a lot of the media, right?
Yeah, I think I consume a lot of the media. Yeah, like
So when it
mostly music.
so when it came time to choose a movie, Andrew chose Hausu or House from 1977. So what is your history with this movie? So has it been on the list for a while, or why hadn't you watched it till now?
I think it's been on the list for a couple years, but I don't. I would say I didn't have any awareness of the movie prior to a couple years ago. I just saw the poster and it's just that cat, and it was very intriguing to me. And I never ever, when you have kids, it's kind of hard to like dedicate time to a movie that you have no idea if you can watch in front of them.
Mhm.
Um, can't. Um,
Can't watch this
but
one.
uh, but yeah, so I'm glad I finally got to it because it kind of matches my current, aesthetic.
Okay. So this one, directed by, I'm going to try to pronounce it, Nobuhiko Ôbayashi, right? And while we watched this movie together, and as soon as we started watching it, you had a thought, right, Andrew, about what it felt like, what the movie felt like to you.
Yes. Yeah, I think I immediately turned to Miguel and said, I feel like this guy directed commercials. And then after Miguel left my house an hour ago, uh, I looked it up. Sure enough, he directed commercials and he used his experimental art house style to direct them. And I don't know, I didn't look into it that hard. I looked hard enough to be right, but not
and then
hard enough
and
to
then you
know
stopped.
more. But uh, but yeah, I honestly feel like he may have had some major influence on the way Japanese commercials were filmed because after the movie, I forced Miguel to watch some Japanese commercials that are current and some Japanese commercials from the 90s, and they have that quick speed cuts and all that kind of stuff. I just feel like that's this movie.
Yeah, some of the pacing in the movie, it's like, and even in the commercials, it's like quarter of a second, 0.5 second, half a second, and then they cut to something else, and it's like it's a bit overwhelming at some point during the movie, and you were showing me the commercials as well, and yeah, kind of same feel. You could when you said it, I was like, yeah, this feels like that commercial for The Simpsons when they find out that a Homer is like a logo in Japan.
Oh yeah, Mr. Clean, right? Is that his
Mr.
name? That wasn't
No,
Mr. Clean. Mr. Sparkle. Is that it? I don't remember.
wow, Mr.
You don't know me,
Sparkle. Yeah, it's
Mr.
Mr.
Sparkle, right?
Sparkle. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
it's
it felt like.
exactly like that.
So, all right, so let's get started talking about Hausu from 1977. So I'm just going to read a bit, just a Wikipedia article or paragraph on it.
Okay.
So House is a 1977 Japanese experimental comedy horror film directed and produced by Nobuhiko Ôbayashi. It's about a schoolgirl traveling with her six friends to her ailing aunt's country home, where they come face to face with supernatural events as the girls are one by one devoured by the home. And it stars mostly amateur actors with only Kimiko Ikegami and Yoko Minamita having any notable previous acting experience. And the musical score was performed by the rock band Godigo. Are you familiar with them?
I'm not, but I'm going to look them up because I was wondering who it was.
Yeah. So in Tokyo, a young girl named Gorgeous, so called for her beauty. Yeah, all these girls have different names.
They had pet names. Gorgeous, fantasy.
Yeah. Prof. She's high. She's wearing the glasses, so she's a
Kung
smart
Fu.
one. Yeah, Kung Fu Melody. Mac, who I thought was like short for Big Mac, but it's actually short for like stomach.
I thought it was mac and cheese for some reason.
Or Mac too. That's because you were hungry.
Yeah.
Sweets, who like was really like I didn't.
She had nothing.
Yeah, she had nothing.
I also remember I couldn't remember, like they're looking for her, and I was like, who the fuck is that? Sweets. She didn't have like a defining characteristic
other than just being sweet, but that's really nothing.
What do they say in the Wikipedia
as far as
what Sweet's thing was?
Oh, Sweets. They say Sweet, who is bubbly and gentle. That's her thing.
They were all pretty bubbly.
Yeah. And Fantasy, who's a constant daydreamer.
Yeah.
Okay. So they get to the house. But my question was, even before they get to the house, I forget who was with the who had a relationship apparently with one of the teachers.
It was Fantasy.
Was it Fantasy? So Fantasy and Mr. Toho, right? So they're supposed to go somewhere else, but Mr. Toho said that his
sister was having a kid, so her beach house was no longer available.
Right. Yeah. Why is this teacher going to the beach house with a bunch of students? I think these are high school students. Is that what you took? Like,
I mean, I think they're high school students. Maybe they're last year high school students. Maybe he's just trying to be a good.
Does last year high school mean anything to you, Andrew?
Well, they graduated. They were 18. That's what I'm saying. They're out of school.
Andrew's like, age ain't nothing but a number. Okay.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that maybe it's innocent. Maybe he's just trying to be.
This man looked like he was 40 years old. Andrew, I think you need to exit right away.
No. I am just not trying to comment on like what is he trying to fuck, or is it just or is he just trying to like make sure these girls are safe? Is he? Hey, look, he's
listen. I got a beach house. I just want you guys to be safe.
He's unmarried. He's unmarried.
We don't know that.
He's there, but we don't know. Right, you're right. He's their teacher.
Yes. So
he's obviously a respectable profession. I'm just fucking with you. Yeah, of course it was inappropriate.
Yeah, very inappropriate. But they don't play it out. It's just like nothing. It's just like normal. That's really weird.
They don't say anything about it at all. Yeah. It's crazy. And go ahead.
So instead of going there, they decide to go to Gorgeous's aunt's house, and she wants to go there because her father has come home and decided that he's going to be marrying this woman, Ryoko. He's going to be marrying Ryoko, and Gorgeous wants nothing to do with it.
And well, so I think the dad framed it incorrectly. He was like, "Hey, we have a companion," and immediately I thought, "Oh, it's a cat. He's giving her a cat." Mm-hmm. And walks this beautiful Ryoko, and he says, "She's going to be your mom." Can we, that's not a great way to introduce the woman he's having sex with. Hey, she's going to be your mom, by the way. And she's like, accept it? Come on, give me a break. Dad, chill out. She'll be a motherly figure for me at best.
Right. Or maybe like don't move in immediately. Maybe give her a chance to meet her and understand, or,
Yeah, let's just have one last hurrah vacation, just me and you,
Yeah.
Why got to come along?
So, but also, first of all, this movie is highly stylized and the sets are amazing. There's a lot of special effects. Special effects, even like special shots and stuff like that. But specifically one I wanted to call out is in Gorgeous's bedroom.
Oh
when
my
she
god.
walks in, and it's got like flower print wallpaper all over the walls, but also on the door, which yeah, you see wallpaper, looks really cool, but you never see it on the door, and it just looks amazing. It looks so cool.
And they cut it. That like the flower cuts when the door jam
Yeah.
and starts again like perfectly. It's like a
Yeah.
very well set design. And also they had like a purple light in the room, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I would say the sets were pretty awesome because when they're outdoor, and I think he did this on purpose because it's like it kind of tricks you visually in the beginning, where whenever they're outside, usually it's like a painted background, right? So when they're at the bus station or the subway station, they're like walking past this painted advertisement of the outside, and the camera pans up a little bit, and you realize, oh, that's a billboard. That's because it looks like it's just another set.
Yeah.
It was really cool. I
Well, he
mean,
also
I'm sure it was
he
intentional.
yeah, and he also does other shots, like really cool stuff, like looks low budget, but the way he does it makes it just add so much presence to the film. But when they're on their way to the aunt's house, they're on the subway, or not subway, I'm sorry, they're on a train, and he puts the girls like facing each other, and then the scenery behind them is moving, so like that they're moving, but you don't see the train, you don't see the interior of the train,
Yeah.
you just see them and the scenery moving by, and you're like, oh man, it looks great, it looks awesome.
Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, I think the movie was beautiful. Like it was beautifully shot. Like this, all the scenery and all kinds of stuff, the lighting, everything about it was great. And when I said they were like, I mean, it's hard to like judge acting, but when I said they're like amateur acting, it was like they were like the perfect performance for that movie. Like all of those actors were like perfect for that role.
Yeah, they were models, and so like they were just, I think they were just being themselves. I mean, I don't want to take away from their acting. I think I didn't notice the acting being bad. I
I
thought
didn't know. Yeah.
if it was, I mean, I think the acting matched up with the movie style.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let me go back a little bit. I do want to give credit to the cast. So Gorgeous was played by Kimiko Ikegami. Kung Fu was played by Miki Jinbo. Fantasy by Kumiko Oba. Professor or Prof was played by Ai Matsubara. Mac was played by Maiko Sato. Melody was played by Eriko Tanaka. Sweet was played by Masayo Miyako. And I think that's it for right now. Yeah, that's pretty much that's. Oh, and the Auntie Kari Hausu, was played by Yoko Minamida. All right. So now they're on their plans for the summer got changed. Now they're on their way to Auntie's house. And when did the cat show up? The cat showed up at Gorgeous's house, right?
Did the cat show up? So I was a little bit confused about this. The cat showed up while she was writing her letter to the aunt, or when she was reading the letter to the aunt. I can't remember, but in the diary of the aunt at the end,
Uh,
Prof is reading it, and she says something like, "I'll send Blanche over." So I'm guessing the cat showed up with the letter.
yeah, yeah.
So
So
cat,
yeah,
and just for your listeners, the cat is named Blanche. The cat.
and I wonder if it's a thing where these names were changed for the English translation, or if actually they
Well,
were called like Gorgeous was that's actually her name. That's what they're calling her in the.
I was so the limited that I can do. Fantasy was spelled Fanta, right? It was spelled Fanta when they were doing the credits.
Yeah.
Um, in the in the script, but I think the only one that wasn't like exactly translated was Gorgeous, but I think all the rest were because Sweet was Sweeto. Um,
So you can
Kung
read
Fu.
that, or we're just saying that it was in English.
Yeah. So you can read it because if it's based on a different, so Japanese borrows a lot of words from different languages, right?
Mhm.
So if it's a name like fantasy and they want to make it fantasy, they'll spell it in a system called katakana, which is just like phonetic spelling of another language.
Okay.
Basically. So you can read that. It's a little bit, So yeah, it matched, is what I'm saying. I think most of them matched.
So is that why? So this film is called House, or also called Hausu.
Yeah,
Is
because
that
because the Japanese word for house is I think it's a heya, I think, or is it ie? I don't remember. It's something like that, but it's not hausu.
yeah?
But sometimes stylistically, they'll change things to a different language because it sounds better. Or it's more stylized.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So they take the train to the aunt's house. And before they get there, they come across a watermelon farmer, and this
Amazing.
dude looks like straight out of a is it Miyazaki or Miyazaki?
Miyazaki.
Miyazaki. It looks like it could be out of one of those animated films because like his face is so much expression. He looks like a frog. Like
Well, and they kind of like move like animated characters.
yeah, I
You know,
mean the whole movie feels like it's a live action version of a anime of a Japanese film, like an animated film.
yeah, but very fun. I mean, the way the sets were painted and all that kind of stuff, like oh, that would feel home like at a on a Miyazaki movie.
Yeah.
But it was so cartoonish, and that's what I loved about it. It was like just off the wall slapstick. Like it was meant to be funny, and it was funny. And it was meant to be scary. I mean, it wasn't that scary.
Right.
It wasn't scary, but it was still great.
Yeah. I mean, this is it's listed as like a horror comedy. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but like for the first, it's like an hour and a half long, not very long. I don't think I could have taken it much longer. Um, but the first 45 minutes of it, nothing really happens, which is fine. It's just like a slow burn, but you feel like you're in a different movie. You feel like you're watching, I don't even know. Like it was like what
It,
did I say? Like an 80s comedy mixed with just like a drama, but like they wouldn't mix it. It would be for one scene it would be drama with the father and Gorgeous, and the other scenes it would be comedy with all the girls.
with the teacher who like his ass gets stuck in a bucket.
Yeah.
It was weird. Um, it felt like sitcom. It's weird because a lot of what happens on screen feels cartoonish, right? But it's definitely directed and looks like a sitcom or like it's just strange. It's a great little thing because it's just very different. But like they do a lot of weird TV stuff where it's like the screen orientation will change to be a circle and it'll
Yeah.
only last a second and they'll cut right away. Or
Yeah.
it'll cut back and forth between characters talking. Or so they're doing this, like characters talking, it'll go their full face on the screen, it'll cut. There'll be no camera movement, it'll just cut, 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 cut. Even if the characters were sitting shoulder to shoulder, right?
Yeah.
Odd way of directing things. But then, like in the next scene, the way they filmed dialogue was they panned the camera left and right. They were all standing shoulder to shoulder, and they just panned it left and right, and the dialogue matched whenever the camera hit the person's center. So it was
Yeah.
like it was interesting. Like everything about it was weird.
Well, also we skipped over this part too, where Gorgeous was telling the her friends about her aunts. She started remembering, and then basically it was like whole movies, and
And
then
they
the
were
girls
commenting.
were watching her memory of the whole movies and commenting on it. Like Mac even said there was some bread roll or something that she was remembering, and Mac was like, "Oh, that looks so delicious." It's like, what the
I
hell?
know it was bizarre. And I think for people who haven't seen it, they won't really understand like how this worked in the movie. It works in the movie, but just describing it sounds weird
Yeah.
because they're watching the inside of the character's brain basically as she tells the story. And the other thing too is the question that you have as a viewer is how does she remember this? Right? Because she's the niece.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have any of these memories.
Right. Yeah.
The retelling of this memory is very interesting because I read up on this director and his dad went to medical school got drafted, right? Similar to the story of the memory, right? So it's basically telling his dad's story, or like,
Yeah.
sprinkling it into his to
That's
the memory.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the story that they tell, that Gorgeous tells them, is basically, well, do you remember it? Because I was having trouble following it, but essentially the aunt fell in love with the dude, but the dude got drafted into the war,
Yeah, and
and
he never came back.
but she's, and so they didn't get married. They were waiting for him to come back to get married, and she never came. He never came back, and so she never married.
Yeah, and since there was no evidence of his death, she never believed he was dead, so she never moved on.
Yeah.
And so that's like the baseline of, the origin story of this curse or whatever it is.
Well, at this point, we don't even know there is any curse.
Right, I know, but then you look
Yeah.
and you think back, oh, that's why. Oh,
Yeah.
that's why. It's funny when they try to wrap these when they try to apply internal logic to what's happening, it still doesn't make any sense, but it's like it was done pretty well, I thought.
Yeah. So then they get to the house, and Mac stopped and got a watermelon from that really weird dude. And so they present her a gift of this watermelon. They get a tour of the home, and the girls leave the watermelon in a well to keep it cold because the refrigerator wasn't working. Kind of a cool idea.
Yeah.
And then they kind of just chilling and having dinner and talking whatever. And later Mac goes to get the watermelon, but she doesn't return. Right.
Right.
And
Right.
what's so fucked up about this is like they're calling her, like they keep saying things about her, like body shaming her. And this girl is just normal size. Maybe she's not as skinny as the rest of these models, but it's just fucked.
They definitely had you. If you have to suspend your disbelief into believing she's you know overweight or anything, because the only clue they give you is she's always holding something to eat and everyone else is always commenting on it. Otherwise, there's no difference between
Yeah.
like their weights almost.
Yeah. But so Mac has now disappeared. And then when Fantasy goes to retrieve the watermelon from the well, she finds Mac's disembodied head, which flies in the air and then bites Fantasy's ass before she can escape.
Multiple times.
Multiple times. This was comical. It wasn't scary at all. But I was fully watching this movie. I was fully engaged, and I didn't realize that Mac disappeared and that was Fantasy going to get the thing, and then Mac bites her in the butt. I just don't think the story was very well developed, or I don't think it was presented very well. I mean, I didn't get a chance to watch the movie multiple times. I just got a chance to watch it once, but I don't know. Were you following along with the story at this point?
I definitely was following along with that. I say
Okay.
the confusing one was Sweet to me,
Okay.
but I do think there's just a lot of characters, and like they didn't have very many discernible. Like Sweet is the one that was like had no discernible personality quirk, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Gorgeous doesn't really either, but Gorgeous you could tell just because of the relationship with the aunt or whatever. But everybody else, like Mac had the food all the time. Professor had glasses.
Glasses. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some kind of thing to like let you know, and it matched their name.
And
But
Kung Fu was my favorite.
Kung Fu was great. Kung
Yeah.
Fu was awesome.
Justice for Kung Fu, because she
Yeah.
was dope.
But yeah, Mac was missing, and Fantasy runs away.
Oh, that was my question to you. Did we see Mac perish? Did we see her die?
Mac was, I think Mac was going to retrieve I don't really remember what happened, but I think Mac was going to retrieve the watermelon or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. But we
But
didn't
they
see
say
her.
something like, but after she disappears, right? They don't make any mention of her disappearing in between that, her saying she was leaving. Then they say, "Oh, we saw a potato farm, and Mac really loves roasted potatoes.
Yeah.
Maybe she's over there eating potatoes."
With her
It was
fat
goofy.
ass.
Yeah, exactly. So they mention it once at least before Fantasy goes off, But this is also like the first clue that a fantasy's character is when she says she saw the decapitated head, everyone says, you're just seeing things.
Yeah.
You're fantasizing.
And
Yeah.
this decapitated head was cool too, because you could see that they were using green screen, and she basically
Yeah.
just had like a cape around her,
It
around
was
her
great. It
shoulders.
was great.
It was just like floating head, and so she literally bit her in the ass.
Yeah. Give me that. Honestly, give me that any day over some computer graphic bullshit.
Yeah.
I would rather see something a little off, but it'd be like real than
Yeah.
than some computer graphics.
I mean, it's got
I thought,
heart and it's got substance and it's fun, you know?
and it matches the style. It's so stylized. I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of things take themselves so seriously, and then you start to lean on graphics too much. But the thing about like computer graphics is it becomes painfully obvious in 10 years. It's
Yeah.
not any better. So might as well just go with the harder work of like stringing up some things. It was great.
Yeah.
I loved
Tying some string to a plastic skeleton and moving it.
it was great. It was awesome.
Yeah. All right. So Mac is missing. She bites Fantasy on the ass.
She's so hungry she'll even eat her friend's ass.
Yeah. And she eating ass. They've been eating it. The Japanese been eating ass in 77. And fucking these not the millennials, the Zennials think that they invented it.
Yeah,
So,
Zennials think they invented eating ass.
I don't want to go any further into
Listen, kid. Listen, kid.
Yeah.
Listen. We've been eating ass for a long time. How much ass you eating?
Not a lot. I'm not tossing salads out here.
You're not saying not. You not. You said not a lot. You didn't say.
Okay. Uh, the tossing of the salad. See, they just come out and say eating ass or whatever. Like we were talking about like tossing salads. I think tossing salads sounds worse for some reason.
Yeah, I think tossing salad sucks because anytime someone at a family function said, "Who's gonna toss a salad?" You start like,
What kind of family functions are you going to?
the ones that you eat salad at.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, describe them, Miguel. What's your first instinct? What's your first instinct? What's the family?
It's a white family. It's your family. Yeah.
Yeah, man, kidney bean salad, bro. Come on, with some Dorito crumbs in.
Jesus Christ. There's some sort of casserole. There's raisins in the potato salad.
Oh, raisins in the potato. Who does that?
Isn't that raisins in the what? Raisins
Maybe that's a southern thing, but I'm from California. I don't know that we did that.
Or what's the whitest thing that your parents would make?
The whitest thing that my parents.
And it's got to be a casserole, like or
Nah,
an ambrosia salad.
Yeah, casserole maybe, but taco salad. I just described it. Kidney beans, Doritos, iceberg.
Is it the layered thing?
Cheese, and not thousand island Italian dressing. It's actually pretty good. Oh, black olives. It's actually pretty good, but it is the whitest thing. My mom.
Is it the layered thing? Is it like a dip?
No. You're thinking of 7-layer dip. That's like refried beans, sour cream.
So what is this thing that you just described? That's
taco salad. It's literally a salad. You gotta toss it. You gotta toss it.
I'm more disturbed by what you just said than anything I saw in this movie.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's good.
Yeah. I mean, it was relative, right?
I start somewhere. My personhood starts somewhere fast.
So at first nobody believes her, but soon they start to see that shit's happening around the house. But then the aunt disappears after entering the broken refrigerator, and then the girls are attacked or possessed by a series of items in the house, such as like Gorgeous becoming possessed after using her aunt's mirror, and Sweet disappearing after being attacked by mattresses.
Oh yeah, that was what happened to her.
So what I was reading up on this was that the director Ôbayashi, he took a lot of inspiration for the deaths from his daughter, specifically like the mattress one, and also the one where
I'm sorry to hear his daughter died that way.
No, she told him that she had a dream that she was attacked by mattresses and killed, and then she had a dream that she was attacked by her mirror, like when she looked into it, the reflection that she had attacked her, that sort of thing. So basically, like she co-wrote,
That's
she
great.
co-wrote Hausu.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So the girls try to escape the house, but after Gorgeous is able to leave through a door, the rest of the girls find themselves locked in. The girls try to find the aunt to unlock the door. That was funny. They're going around, they're walking in circles, and they're like, "Ah, she's educated. The aunt is educated. How are we going to figure out how to open these doors? If there's got to be some way." And then Prof was like, "I got it. Let's just ask her."
Yeah. That scene too. I think that was the best shot scene in the whole movie was the way the camera paced with them.
Yeah,
They're just moving around in circles, and they're just literally moving around in circles. It was great. But yeah, that was pretty funny. I think we commented on that live.
yeah.
A great idea.
So the melody begins to play the piano to keep the girls' spirits up, and then they hear Gorgeous singing upstairs. As Prof and Kung Fu go to investigate, Melody's fingers are bitten off by the piano, and it ultimately eats her whole. This was amazing.
That was a great.
This was again, they just taped her fingers off with like green
Yeah.
tape, and they what I liked is that they did it at different intervals, because if they just did a straight, that wouldn't be so much fun.
Yeah.
But like it was different like levels of the fingers, and just the idea of like she's noodling at the keys, and it just starts eating her fingers is so like it's so great. It's so much fun, you know?
And I think I don't remember if this was actually how it happened in the movie, but she's going up screaming. Her fingers are well, actually, she doesn't really notice her fingers are off until she puts down her right hand and then it cuts off her whole hand, right?
Yeah.
But the fingers are still playing the piano.
Yeah.
It's like a player piano. It's great. No, it's a lot of fun. And then the other thing too is in the background you can see the skeleton still dancing, like even
Yeah.
throughout this. Like they took a lot of care to make sure the details stayed the same, and it was like added to the humor of it all.
Like
So
there it was all played up for comic effect, right? So this
yeah,
felt more like a haunted house movie from the 40s or something like that, right?
yeah,
Like, but there's a version of this movie that is extremely horrific, right? Like, if they were to like put a different soundtrack or score to it, I think this could be horrific, because just that idea is
I mean,
terrifying.
yeah, it's pretty standard haunted house stuff, I think. But the score, I'm glad you mentioned that. Right? Who's this? Who was it again? You looked it up.
Yeah,
The
the
rock band.
score was done by Godigo.
It was. I don't think there was a moment the movie had no music, especially in the first 45 minutes. Everything had background music to it, and it was like, and that was the lightest part of the movie, right? That was like the
Yeah.
comedy part. That was like the romantic comedy part. But they do the dad is a composer for movies,
Oh,
and
okay, really?
yeah, and he said something like, "I'm better than who's the composer that
Oh,
does
yeah, in the movie. I thought you were talking about the actor.
yeah in the movie."
Oh, he compares himself to Morricone or
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because it's like that's not at all what this music is in this movie. You know
right.
what I mean? Like it's no, if you're thinking it's that, it's not. But I thought it was really great. Um, it
Yeah,
added like the juxtaposition of like seriousness and cartoonishness.
yeah.
Like it just made the movie way more disorienting in a good way.
So he said that Sergio Leone said that his music, the dad's music, was better than Ennio Morricone's music, and
Yeah.
that's like all that spaghetti western from the
Yeah.
'60s, '50s, and '60s. Like that stuff's amazing. Upstairs in the house, Kung Fu and Prof find Gorgeous wearing a bridal gown, who then reveals her aunt's diary to them. Before I forget, I don't know when this happens, but there's a scene. It might be here, but there's a scene where like we see a profile of, I believe it's Gorgeous, and then he removes her, and it's then it's like gold foil,
Yeah, you're talking about the flaming one.
Yeah, the flaming one. Like that looked amazing. That looked so cool.
Wasn't that in the mirror?
Was in the mirrors. Yeah. So like probably when she first got
Yeah. So when
possessed or
she,
whatever.
yeah, and then when the mirror cracked, it turned to her face, and then her face started cracking, and
Yeah.
it was like really, it looked great. It was awesome. But what was really awesome was when they zoomed out and did the side the side profile shot, and it was like her whole body was just like flames. It was like a perfect cutout of her body, and it was
Right.
just, and it was just like flame gif.
Yeah. So Kung Fu follows Gorgeous as she leaves the room, only to find Sweet's body trapped in a grandfather clock. Don't remember this part at all. Do you? Sweet.
Yes. The, the
Okay.
the the trapped part though is she's screaming, "Help me" or something, and then the gears are grinding and it's just like bleeding inside.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Near
Yeah.
the end of the movie.
Yeah. So panic driven, the remaining girls barricade the upper part of the house while Prof. Fantasy and Kung Fu read the aunt's diary. They are interrupted by a giant sized head of Gorgeous, who reveals that her aunt died many years ago, waiting for her fiance to return from World War II, and that her spirit remains eating unmarried girls who arrive at her home. So essentially, what you're telling me is that this aunt has been dead, but she knows how the postal system works and is able to receive and also send out mail.
The cat does. The cat knows the post.
Okay, all right, all right.
Yeah.
You you are right.
Yeah, I think the cat is the key villain in this whole thing. Uh
So is she a
it's actually
witch? Is she
never
a
clear.
vampire?
I mean, I guess we had, well, because she wouldn't go out in the light. Remember, like, why do you wear sunglasses outside? Was one of
Yeah.
the questions that they asked. Is like, well, why would you wear them inside? So, but I think they're trying to make it like she doesn't like light.
If you wear your sunglasses inside, your name is Zach Chapman.
Yeah.
Yeah. He does listen to the show.
Dude, that felt like a real hard elbow jab, man. I don't think you should be saying that.
He never listens to this show, so it doesn't matter. We can talk shit about him all we want.
Huh.
We could stage dive into his comments and he'll never say anything.
So here's my question: the cat and the aunt shared screen time. They were on the same. They were on the screen at the same time, right?
Yeah.
But it also made it seem as if the cat was really the aunt was the cat, right? But then the aunt goes into Gorgeous. It's just like, I guess I was confused on the whole, what was the connection between the cat and the aunt, and why did the aunt inhabit other bodies? Like, what did she only inhabit the cat's body sometimes? And that was when the cat was evil? I don't know.
Yeah, it's unclear, right? It's not
It doesn't matter. It's just one of those things you think about later. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't contribute at all to the flick. You don't need that information at all.
but also there's Japanese culture, they have stuff like yokai, which are um I may get this incorrect, so if I get incorrect, I apologize. But what I believe is happening is that they believe inanimate objects have spirits, and so she even says so. Like she talks to some of the objects in her kitchen or whatever,
Yeah.
and so they just have a different. So maybe we don't know what it is. Maybe spirits can't go into the sun. It's not necessarily vampire, So they
Yeah.
just have a different well of monsters and ghosts to pull
Yeah.
from than Western society does.
Yeah. I'll take that. Yeah. It wasn't a hang up at all. It was just like, oh, I wonder how this works. That
Yeah.
was um but yeah, the movie was wild. Um
All right, we got a little bit left here. So then
yeah,
the
no,
the, the three girls are then attacked by. So this is a bit like and then there were none, right? It's good because
yeah,
there's the bit slasher vibes because they're
yeah,
killing one by one sort of thing. But
yeah,
the three girls are then attacked by household items. Professor or Prof shouts to Kung Fu to attack the aunt's cat, Blanche. But at this point, Kung Fu is dead, right? Because so Kung Fu uh was like electrocuted to death. She was kind of eaten by a lighting fixture, and then we only see her legs attack the
yeah,
cat.
Yeah. Well, the spirit, her fighting spirit for one last final punch, and will kick. The legs fly through the air and kick the portrait, right? And it does break the portrait, but she's dead, and she's been dead. She's
Yeah.
electrocuted. It's like one of those. It's like Frankenstein, right? Get some electricity in there. You got one final move. You're good. Critical
So
hit.
so then Kung Fu's legs manage to escape, and they damage the painting of Blanche on the wall, which in turn kills Blanche physically. So Blanche is the cat. So the attacked Blanche portrait spurts blood, causing the room to flood. And Prof tries to read the diary, but a jar with teeth pulls her into the blood where she dissolves. So at this point, like we looked at the time, we're like, okay, they're just trying to wrap this up real quickly.
Yeah.
We need to kill these bitches off real quick.
Yeah.
So Fantasy sees Gorgeous in the bridal gown and paddles towards her. Gorgeous appears as her aunt in the reflection of the blood and then cradles Fantasy. In the morning, Ryoko, her future stepmom,
Yeah.
arrives at the house and finds Gorgeous in a classic kimono. Gorgeous tells Ryoko that her friends will wake up soon and that they will be hungry. She then shakes hands with Ryoko and burns her away to nothing. The film ends with an epigraph by Auntie about the ending nature of love. Then the end credits roll over non-diegetic footage of actress Kimiko Ikegami, who's gorgeous and out of character. But it was batshit crazy. This is what I saw this movie maybe a decade ago, and I was not a fan. I think I gave it at that part 2.5 stars. But watching it now, I understand Japanese cinema a bit more. I understand the culture a bit more, and I enjoyed it a lot more. So my rating has improved, but we'll get to that. But what did you think about this movie, man?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I mean, I love that that the director played with the directing styles throughout the movie. Like it felt like it was a never ending camera experiment. You know what I mean? Like he was just messing around. I love that. I love how off the wall it was. It was cartoonish. It was slapstick. The music was great. The sets were beautiful. I feel like it really came together as a thing, and it's like something I've never seen something come together that perfectly in such a unique style. Um, I'll have to say, in the very beginning of the movie, there's some choices made with directing, and and I also feel like that was a way for the director to tell the audience, get comfy with this, because this is what it's like. Like when they're on the balcony, the daughter and the husband speaking, a lot of the dialogue took place between those window panels, right? And it was like you never had a perfect frame of them speaking.
Oh, okay. I didn't
You know
notice
what I
that.
mean? And so it was like a really weird directing choice. And then things like, oh, the cat's right here in the train, and then the circle just went straight to the cat, like a
Yeah.
cartoon. Like it was like fading out of a Looney Tunes cartoon and then went straight back out. Like I've never seen something so anarchic with its style. It was just like, we're gonna do everything. And it's gonna work because the whole movie doesn't. The whole movie is crazy. So it doesn't matter how visually nonsensical it is or how visually inconsistent it is. How inconsistent it is going to be its consistency, which is like, it was great. Now it sounds like it's like this really intellectual movie or something. It was just like, to me, it's like it doesn't have to be. It was great, but there's a lot to chew on if you want to chew on it.
And you were saying that like it was nonsensical. Like I was reading up that like even some of the members of the crew and the cast were like, this film is nonsense. And so I think that kind of portray they knew the assignment, you know.
Yeah,
And he even began playing the film soundtrack on set to help to kind of change the way that the girls were acting, because he didn't like the way they were acting at the beginning. And so like you can hear the kind of music that's going to play over what you're doing, so you're like,
yeah,
oh, I get it, this is silly.
yeah. And the music, it's funny because the music does change with each scene. I don't know, it was great. It was really the full package. And I said it was like directed kind of like a commercial, real quick cuts, real like out there acting, over the top. But then you look at a Japanese commercial and it's directed like that. That's how it's directed. I still say House is a lot crazier. But the nonsense aspect of it, in the end, it still made sense. It still had a narrative structure. It was still pretty. It was still like easy to digest, like story wise. But the whole thing was actually just anarchy. So I loved it. I think it was great. I love when artists do that.
What is it about either this movie or Japanese media or like the weird genre? Like, what is it that attracts you to that? Like, because it seems like it's all like similar in your likes.
Well, I'll say I like a lot of things, right? Like a lot of things. So it's hard for me to say, oh, I'm a this kind of fan or I'm a this kind of fan because I do enjoy a lot of different types of art and a lot of different types of media. Um, uh, I will say though, the stuff that speaks the most to me is reaches. I always call it like a reach, like an artistic reach. When someone does something that is hard to accomplish for anybody, but they do it anyways, or they have a singular vision and they pursue it anyways, despite the fact that your crew thinks that it doesn't make any sense. I like when they just go for those things. So when it comes to like the weirdness and artistic reaches, I think I'm really into this Japanese songwriter Shintaro Sakamoto, and he's got like a real spacey vibe, a very spacey, beachy kind of vibe, and he always uses like high pitched like voices to accentuate that spaciness and that weirdness. Plays a lot of slide guitar, so it sounds very like spacey is the only word I can use. But I don't know what he's saying half the time, but I'll go look it up or I'll try to read along. But it's just the kind of thing where it's like there's nothing really truly great about anything, right? Like there's nothing like super groundbreaking and all the stuff that I like. But I do like when someone pursues like a unique thing, a unique sound. Like this is obviously pretty singular as a style. I'd say that there's nobody quite sounds like Shintaro Sakamoto. And the fact that it's Japanese is like you just won't there's not going to be a large fan base in the United States to talk about with.
Uh-huh.
So I get to appreciate it as a complete outsider. Like I don't know the cultural context of Shintaro Sakamoto. I don't know the cultural context of House. I get to appreciate it on its own terms, uh, which is kind of cool. Now, I also like to learn about the culture surrounding these things, but initially, I like to just be challenged by something else, something that I don't have a common language with or a common set of metaphors.
Yeah. So we talked about this a bit after the movie, but so some of the themes in Hausu, it's like loss of innocence and like horrors of war. So it's also like what can happen a long time ago has reverberations. What happened in the past has reverberations in the future.
Yeah,
So in this movie, Auntie's husband went away to war and never returned. And then, what, let's say 60 years later or 50 years later, now these
only 30
girls,
years later, really.
40, 45, 55, 65, 7. Oh, yeah, shit. So, like a little over 30 years later, um, the effects of that war are being felt by these, innocent women.
Yeah.
So, how do you think that like did you perceive that as a theme or were you did it pop out to you as a theme or was it because I don't know if they were trying to say that actively or if it's more in the background. I was trying to see if that's something that you saw.
I think putting anything in a movie, any kind of backstory in it, there's obviously an intention to it, right? And how important it is to the movie, I think, is really up to the director and the individual viewer. I do think that it adds it adds what I think it does is it adds mostly to the aunt's sadness, right? The aunt's loneliness.
Mhm.
And now everybody has to pay for it. And so as far as like a messaging about the war and the long-lasting effects about the war, I think it's probably there. But the way I took it was more of like a character context, right? Like this adds to the sadness, is out of her control. She doesn't want to believe that he's dead. It's something that's the more that I think about it, the more I'm talking about it and boring myself is like a
Fascinating.
haunted house is like the nuclear bomb, right? A haunted house, you can't control it, right? You have no idea, right?
Uh-huh.
It's completely out of your control. Nuclear bomb, completely out of your control. A war, completely out of your control. Life is just a series of things you have to navigate, and there are consequences. But in the end, things that happen to you, they're so large and unexplainable. That's it. It is like a curse. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
And so what I was talking to Andrew about was the effects that the bombings had on the Japanese people and the Japanese culture. Um, Specifically this director, I mean, he is of the age where he lost, in what I read, all of his friends in the bombings. And so he had a lot of bitterness towards the war. And I see it coming out in, what happened with the auntie's fiance or whatever, and how he didn't come back from that war, and then that curse that came from it. So I just
Yeah.
I enjoy this the subtext in this silly movie.
Well, yeah. Now you say there's a lot of subtext. Like the aunt is a victim of the war, right? She's a victim of the war. The next generation doesn't even know that she's dead because they don't even pay attention to her, right? In a lot of ways, the girls are living like completely carefree lives.
Yeah.
They weren't affected by the war, uh, so much so that they forget the tragedy of it. And now, but there's an outlet for the ghost, right? There's an outlet. I'm gonna eat these young unmarried women because
Yeah.
I'm hurt. Hurt people hurt people.
That's right. That's right. All right. And then I guess the last
Movie's good,
question.
man. This movie's man.
So it's been described as it's a blend of horror, comedy, and even melodrama, like what we talked about earlier. How do you think it managed to balance all those three genres? Like, did it effectively do that, or did one overshadow the other, or was it a good blend of it?
I think it was a good blend, and I think the movie was incredibly self-aware, right? Like it for a movie to be this crazy, if it's not self-aware, um, it would be pretty strange to not be aware of what you're doing in that kind of sense. But I think like the parts that were melodramatic were melodramatic. They're like soap opera kind of things. Um, it was funny throughout. I think a lot of horror movies are funny, even if they're not meant to be funny, or not. They're not explicitly like comedic. Um, but I think it's a great slapstick humor. I think the horror did well too. I think everything in this movie was definitely intentional. So I think it did it well. I think it succeeded too. Um, there might be some bias in that we don't speak the language, so maybe we don't see everything that didn't actually go well for the movie. But as a English speaker, reading the subtitles and seeing it all go through, I thought the movie was incredible.
We're gonna do something a bit new here. So Andrew and I are going to continue our conversation on our on the Patreon. We're going to talk about Andrew's love for Japanese music, Shintaro Sakamoto,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and just a bunch of other stuff. So if you want to listen to that, please join us on the Patreon. Patreon.com/my horror confessional. Just wanted to tell you guys that right now. I'm going to see if I can continue to do that and draw some people over to the Patreon. But before we do that, let's go ahead and rate this movie. And as we've done in the past, we rate this out of 5 upside down crosses. Andrew, what would you rate Hausu from 1977?
I would rate it 5. Count them. 5 upside down crosses.
And he was showing us his fingers, and some of them were missing nubs.
They're nubs. And the
nubs.
green screen was imperfect. So
when you were talking about typing up excrement mountains in between like 2 and 5 a.m. and typing away at the keyboard, I just pictured like
those fingers
from the piano. Yeah.
What would you rate it?
So for me, like I said, when I saw it about a decade ago, I gave it 2.5, let's say, upside down crosses for the branding. The brand is strong. 2.5 upside down crosses back then. I think now, watching this, I'm gonna give it 3.5 upside down crosses.
A whole star is big.
A whole star. That's a good movie. That from hating the movie, going from 2.5 and hating it. If anybody asked me, I'd be like, it's shit. You want to watch it, go right ahead. I'm not going to watch it. But for you, Andrew, I was willing to watch this movie, and I'm glad I did because I enjoy it now. Like I want to watch it again. I want to get more into like that world. I want to, I want to see if it's on Blu-ray and see behind the scenes and any like, I want to know more about it because it's fascinating. I just love that technique. All the like superimposed images, stop motion animation, the rapid editing to like, so it's creating like a sense of unease.
It was awesome.
It's like blurring the boundaries between like reality and fantasy. Like the house comes alive. It's, like a flesh house sort of thing.
It's
right?
Great. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. So yeah, it was 3.5 upside down crosses for me. It's going to be a recommendation. And if I'm like, after I watch a movie, if I turn around and I'm like, if I don't already own this, I want to own it on Blu-ray or 4K, whatever, then that's good. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I'm at, 3.5 upside down crosses. So Andrew, could you please let everybody know where they can follow you, how they can support you, where they can buy the book, all that sort of stuff?
All right. Well, you can follow me on Twitter, Hilbert3000. Nobody uses Twitter that much anymore. I don't really use Twitter anymore that much either. But that's where you can follow me. My website's 5gkilledgod.com, and I have a bunch of links there. So that's the best place. But I'm also on Blue Sky.
Quit trying to make Blue Sky a thing, man. It's not.
Blue
it's
Sky,
not
Hilbert3000. Pretty much you could find me under Hilbert3000 under anything. But 5gkilledgod.com has all my links. Because I'm sure Blue Sky is not going to exist for too long. Gray skies are coming for blue skies.
That was pretty good. I liked it. So what we do typically is we used to, I would recommend 3 movies to you, and then you'd have to come back and watch them and come back talk about them. But what we're doing now is recommending. I'm going to recommend to you a horror movie in the similar vein, and I'd like the recommendation from you. Okay. The movie I would recommend to you is Paprika from 2006, which is an animated movie. But from what I've heard, I haven't seen it yet, so maybe we can check it out together. But I heard it like the weirdness is like 4 out of 5 and enjoyability is 4 out of 5 as well. So I think that'd be a great one to watch. Paprika, I just wanted to give you a quick synopsis. When a machine that allows therapists to enter their patients' dreams is stolen, all hell breaks loose. Only a young female therapist, Paprika, can stop it.
And you know what I'm going to recommend to you, my friend?
What are you going to recommend?
Big Man Japan. It's a movie about a superhero. It's a kaiju movie. It's a superhero, and he gets real big. To save, the city he lives in. It's kind of like a mockumentary style movie. So it's a comedy, a little bit sci-fi, a little bit, but it's really weird. So it's good. You'll like it.
I mean, there's nothing really like Hausu. Like, really, when it's such an individual movie. Like, it is its own thing.
It's great. I mean, I was shocked at how different it was.
Yeah.
That's once in a while you get those kind of movies, man. It's just great. Yeah. I'm excited about it.
What I was going to tell you is it's kind of in this similar vein as how fucking weird it is Possession. But
Yeah,
so you've seen Possession, you know?
yeah. It took me a while, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, fucking took like a year and a half.
But I think possession, in the weirdness aspect, possession is also a singular movie, but
Yeah.
it's like it's such a different way. You know,
Yeah.
it's so weird. It's so hard to talk about Hausu with to think about what it actually is, because it's like it's anarchy. It's chaos,
Yeah.
but it all works together.
All right. So that's the show, everybody. Thank you very much for listening this week. Again, Andrew and I will be continuing our conversation over on Patreon. We'll be talking about a bunch of Japanese shit that Andrew listens to, and we're going to judge him for it. So, thanks for joining us today, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.